Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 15. Hello, and welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson, and I'm here virtually with Julian Pombo.
Hey, how's it going?
This is our first remote podcast Zoom meeting thing. Still COVIDing away, coronavirusing. How's things with you? I've actually not asked you how you are because we've been trying to set this up for the last half hour, and we tried various different methods, and this one seems to be working.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm good. Yeah, I'm okay. Things are good. Just a bit bored. I'm a bit bored of this whole sitting in my house, not seeing people. I've had like one or two encounters where I've seen like maybe like one person that I know, and the thing that I've found really difficult is just having like a normal face-to-face conversation. I'm just sitting there going like, so like, how do I talk to normal people again? Like, it's terrifying because it's only been like a month and a bit, 2 months, 1.5 months. I can't remember.
I looked in the calendar. I think the last time I saw other people other than my family was like the 14th of March or something, and it's now the 16th of May, so it's kind of 2 months, because I was staying with you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
for 5 weeks, and now I'm back home. So it's like, there's so many people that I see all the time and haven't seen in so long, and it's like, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, for example, I hope this doesn't get me into trouble. I don't think it should. I was just dropping off like a microphone stand for somebody, and it was John, actually. It was my friend John. I hadn't seen him in like weeks, but it was funny because before I'd been playing like Civ games with him, like just playing online, and that was fine. But as soon as it was like a face-to-face conversation, it was just like, how do I talk to human beings again?
A couple of Sims, just
Harbadoogle. Yeah, it was really, really weird. But yeah, no. Apart from that's the sort of funny side of it. But it's been fine. It's been good. Been sitting about, been doing a bit of reading, watching stuff, trying to write music. That kind of thing. Yeah, no, it's
still
been
teaching.
It's been okay. Yeah, still teaching. Gonna try and see if I can get a couple more pupils, but it's fine. I'm gonna see if I can get some recording gigs or something as well. That would be good, quite good. Some remote recording.
Yep. Send
over some files, whatever.
So we'll move on to today's topic. So I'm going to talk about something that is absolutely not COVID related or anything.
No.
Because if someone, if I make a COVID episode, it's all well and good, but in 5 years' time, it's going to be worthless because it's likely not going to be relevant. But
let's hope so.
This topic we're going to talk about, I see all the time, and I think I mentioned it on a previous episode that I wanted to cover it, and this affects people all the time, and I'll call it post-release momentum. So basically, it's a sort of phenomenon I've seen play out through like so many bands' lives, and this is like post-album. It's like a lull. So it's the moment after you've spent huge amounts of time and effort writing, rehearsing, recording, performing a new release, be it an EP or an album or whatever. And then once you've done it all, it's just a big lull. Nothing happens. You lose contact. It's just this work, release thing, and then
Yeah.
you just kind of forget to pick things up again. And I've found that a lot of bands break up in that period after their first release.
Which is a shame because there's so much work leading up to that, and then all of a sudden it just nothing.
It's just gone. So like you're talking like if it's your first release, you've decided on like band name, band logo, band aesthetic, artwork design.
If you've been following the podcast anyway.
Yeah, like everything. And then it's like, boom, nothing. And it's almost always down to no new material being created in that process. Because while you are, I would say, while you're recording and performing this new release, you should be behind the scenes working on new material, writing new songs. So, yeah, I kind of want to talk a little bit about this period and the sort of lack of creative drive. I've found if there's no like creativity, that's when like arguments start and fights and then eventually break up. So I don't know if you've actually seen this in any band you've been a part of, but I would say like loads of mine have had this.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed it. It happened when one of the bands that I was in, basically we'd released an album and or an EP rather. We recorded and released an EP, but before, on the lead up to it, we had recorded a bunch, like rehearsed a bunch for it, recorded for it, and it was, it's cool. And then after that was done, it was kind of like, right, well, now what? And we were still meeting up for regular rehearsals, but I was getting annoyed because we weren't rehearsing anything new. There was no, at the time I was quite immature, so I didn't handle it in the best way. I decided to quit because I was getting annoyed of the sort of stagnation. Yeah. When really what I should have done in that situation was I should have just A, addressed it, and B, tried to help, try to do something about it. But instead I just decided to be really angry about it and leave on. Not.
Did they? Yeah. But did they just stop writing?
Cringing so hard just thinking about it. No, it was just things that just kind of like they were still writing, but they were practicing loads of like old stuff all the time, every week, and there was no focus on like trying to, it wasn't like when we write new stuff, for example, it was frustrating for me because it was all like there wasn't like, all right, here's the chord structure, like here's like, it wasn't written. Basically, it wasn't organized. It was a bit too airy fairy. I could have done something about that. I could have been like, all right, cool, like instead of sitting there being lazy, I can go, well, I can contribute to this by maybe like transcribing it. So let's like sit down and like, cool, so it's this chord here and then this is the melody. Oh, okay, cool, whatever. But I totally get that. I experienced that once. How about yourself?
Yeah, more than once.
Yeah.
So there was a band I was in. It was just a 5-track EP, but it was such a huge deal at the time. And we just spent like, I don't know, 6 months to a year, maybe, I don't know how long, working on like artwork and font and songs and recordings and possibly videos, photo shoots. Like, took so long, and there was this big build up. We had CDs, online releases, big EP launch, did all that, and then now this is kind of funny because I would say like it's a lack of material that usually creates that lull. But we had material. But
Interesting.
what happened was we had done the album, and everyone was working really hard to push out this new EP and this new thing. And when it dropped, when it was done, everyone just pulled back, and suddenly everyone's availability was like less, maybe because they were spending so much time in the band for so long that they kind of wanted to do other things, and maybe they just lost interest slightly. So what happened was, instead of rehearsing once a week, it was like once or twice a month.
Right.
Even though we were rehearsing new stuff, the attitude changed and shifted.
Yeah.
Even though there was new material. But the new material had issues. There were issues like with the new material. It wasn't. It was a different creative process the second time round, and things had changed a little bit, which is good, and I would encourage that, just to try and mix things up a bit. But like, I think the key thing is like, when you're in the process of building up that release for your first thing, have in the background, round about the time you're recording your new stuff and you're performing your new stuff, make sure you're still writing songs, and make sure the songwriting process is still taking place underneath all that.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I just remembered something. It's kind of reminding me a lot to like. It's just reminding me of like marriage statistics. It really is just like that.
Yeah.
Like there's like loads of couples who are like together for like, I don't know, like 10 years or something, and then they get married, and then it lasts like 6 months and they get divorced.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's quite similar. I guess because in what I'm sort of analysing there is that in there they're kind of doing the same thing. There's this lead up to this one day, their wedding day, and then after that it's just like, nothing. Okay, divorce time. Here we go.
Yeah.
So it. Yeah. Sorry, that was just a funny thing that just popped into my head.
Yeah. It's very similar.
It's so similar.
Yep. I never thought about that, actually. I didn't know that.
I read that somewhere. I could be. There might be some like half truths or like half.
Yeah, it was a BuzzFeed article from like 5 years ago. Or something.
It was yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so that's the first thing I would say. Even though I've experienced,
plan for the future.
What's that?
Just plan for the future.
Plan for the future, yeah. Make sure the writing keeps happening, but it's not just the writing that drives a band, as has been proven in the past. I think so you'll find varying degrees of success after you make your first release, and that should be keeping the band busier than it was before. So that, I would say, creates an incentive to delegate tasks to members of the band, to stop them becoming bored of the project and quitting the band. So that was something that definitely has happened before in projects I've been a part of, where you drop an album and you don't hear anything. Like, oh, are we rehearsing? What is there any new material? What are we doing? And it's just nothing, and there's no communication, and you've maybe gained a little bit of audience, from 6 months ago, who are listening to the album or the EP.
Yeah.
So people are maybe making online purchases, or you're playing more gigs, or there's things that need to be done. And every time you release something, there'll be even more and even more. And there's more of a chance to delegate those tasks. It goes back to that whole thing last time. We were talking about hiring musicians to try and make them feel included in the band. Give them something to do. with regards to running the band. It should be like that, all the time.
If that's what they're expecting anyway, because at the same time, like if you're hired on like, I don't know, like just as the bass player and that's it, and that, and you're okay with that, then that's totally cool. But
as an originals, band, not like a session musician kind of situation, obviously. But the sort of next thing to keep in mind as well is coming back after an album, and you've got this little bit of pressure. Now, depending on how big your audience is or whatever, you have this pressure to release something. Your second release, you want it to be as impactful or at the same theme or whatever as the first one. You don't want to disappoint people. But you also don't want to stifle your creativity. You want to maybe try something different, but you're scared that people are going to take it wrong. Like maybe you try out some different elements of different genres, and you're like, well, they one minute they were jazz, now they're playing something else. But I think keeping ideas flowing and keeping the actual band members engaged is probably more important than appealing to an audience. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you should. I would go as far. This maybe is quite extreme, but I would go as far as saying, don't write music for an audience ever. Right? You should. This isn't a new. I'm pretty sure David Bowie kind of said this, and to some, I'm sort of paraphrasing, I guess, but basically, don't write for the audiences. Like, write music that is compelling and interesting to you. And the thing is that you will find, you'll find an audience. And the audience that wants to hear that will find you always. Yep. Right? There is no. I don't believe that there's music that nobody will listen to.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I might not want to listen to it, but I'm not the audience for that kind of music, Mm-hmm. So if you want to go and you want to write like crazy, like microtonal, like, prog rock or whatever, like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, then it's real band and the microtonal riffs, they're great. They're a fantastic band. I really like them. There you go. Yeah, like you don't. Yeah, the audience will find you. You know, just and the thing is that if you write music that you find compelling and interesting, then they'll come across and people know they'll look at you playing and they'll listen to you and they'll go, oh yeah, these guys really believe in what they're mm-hmm. writing, what they're producing, so
I've heard of bands, I can think of a few particular bands I actually know who don't write music not so much based on what they like, but what they think people will like. So they're kind of driven by money more than the actual material. So they'll maybe, their thought process is, we'll maybe make this one a little bit country because we want to appeal to a slightly older generation who like American country music. But this one we want to appeal to Scottish folk because there's a pub somewhere that plays Scottish folk bands, and we should write this song so we can get in that pub. Oh, and we should also play this hard rock tune because we want to get into this venue here. And before you know it, you're just a big mishmash of just nothing. And
yeah, exactly. You're just a plate of beige.
Plate of beige.
And that's what I think of, like, I like when you mix like all of the, it actually, no, this analogy does kind of works. Like if you mix all the colors, all of them, excluding black and white, because I don't think they're colors, they're shades, But
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, right?
No, you're right.
Cool. You'll just get brown,
Yeah.
right? Just brown. And it's
Yeah.
not even like a nice brown. It's just
like grey brown.
And yeah, that's what's going to happen. That's what happens with music. That's what happens to a band. If you go in and like, your album is like, oh yeah, here's like a hard rock tune, and then here's a Scottish jig, and here's this and that, here's a blues tune, here's a jazz tune, here's a country tune. Like, people are gonna go, what?
What's going on? Yeah.
What is going on? Not to mention that if you don't stick to one style, or I mean, definitely, like, I'm not against bands like exploring different avenues and sounds and whatever. You should definitely do that in a natural way that makes sense, right? So if you started off as like I don't know, like a punk band or something, but steadily your music maybe starts implementing little bits of funk or whatever, and then you end up just becoming a funk band, punk to funk. I didn't mean for that to happen, but like if that happens, and that happens in a slow, steady way, and it just evolves,
that's fine.
The audience will just grow with you, and they'll follow you, and they'll go, "Oh, this is legitimate,"
Yeah.
So, just stick to something. Find something and go, that's what I want to do. And see where it takes you. And if it takes you somewhere else, if it takes you on like a completely different place, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem,
Yeah, it's like it's better to let the music, just the creative process, drive the band, not anyone's ego or money or what you think your audience wants. I mean, look at, I don't know, look at movies, films, like look at the Star Wars franchise, if anyone's a fan of Star Wars.
Yeah.
How the last two films especially,
I'm not saying, I watched the second last one. I've not watched the last one.
I think the last one, Rise of Skywalker, they tried so hard to appeal to people who didn't like episode 8. It was basically trying to, because everyone moaned about episode 8, so they spent the entirety of that movie basically retconning everything from the previous movie, to the point where the movie in and of itself is just blah. I mean, that's just my opinion, obviously, but it didn't. The three films for me, like compared to the original three films, the first three films didn't really, they didn't pander to anyone. They were just a creative process. George Lucas just had a story that he wanted to tell. Whereas I would argue like 7, 8, and 9, where they were trying to please people, they were trying to please an audience. It was less about the creative process. That's the way I see it anyway. Probably going to get absolute roasted for that.
I don't know. Well, it's kind of similar in video games as well, I guess.
Yep. Sequels are so bad for that. Like, because they release a really, really good game, and then the sequel comes out, and there's like loads of backlash. To be honest, it used to be worse back in the day. Like, like late 90s, early 2000s. Like, because it used to be, what would happen was, like you said, a game came out, it was excellent, and they were like, oh, well, we need to make another one as quickly as possible so we can, ride on the, ride that wave as long as it lasts and make even more money. But because they rushed or it wasn't usually the game developer, it was always the publisher would tell them, like, you need to make another game in like 9 months and release it. And like, I don't know, I guess now technology is a lot more advanced, so games like that would
we could probably make in about 9 months and then come out fine. But back then it was just a mess.
Well, now the emphasis is on, well, it has been, I don't know about now, but the microtransactions things, like they're basically like slot machines. So they're driven by money. They're not like, they can take a game with a kind of hollow story, not a very good creative, plot or story, and then insert the microtransactions in there, and people will just put all their money into this stuff.
That kind of died down after the whole like Battlefront 2 fiasco.
Yeah.
And Shadow of War and all of that nonsense. So yeah, in like single player games and things like that, like they aren't really a big deal anymore.
Yep.
Thank goodness. But
I think it kind of like, this doesn't just apply to bands. It's like everything across the creative industries, from movies down to music to photography, videography, design, anything creative. If you forget where the drive comes from, the drive always comes from the actual creative process, and if you lose sight of that, the material that you produce will suffer. I think that's basically the point. But back to the post-release lull or lack of momentum. A lot of the time, in my experience, is people just lose communication. So communication is like absolutely key to running any kind of band, or just trying to keep people together. Just don't lose touch, because the amount of times where you've just done something. I mean, for example, we went on tour last year, and after the tour, we didn't really see each other until. I didn't see you for months after that. Months and months, because we finished up in July, and then the next time I saw any of you was a couple of weeks before we went to Switzerland, and you weren't even there.
No,
and that was it. It was kind of like,
I saw you before Switzerland because you helped me move house.
Apart from that, like as a band, we didn't really.
Yeah, as a band, we didn't know.
Like, we had loads of time. See in hindsight, see because of this COVID-19 thing, see the amount of time we have wasted not writing new material and recording new material. See, when you're sitting in your house and you're bored and you think, oh, what I would do if I could leave the house and meet up with people, I would do so much. But the truth is, we had all the time in the world and we didn't fully utilize that time. Like, we're in the middle.
Hey, man.
We're in the middle of recording an EP right now, and we're 1.5 songs in, and we can't meet up, we can't record anything, and it's so frustrating. It's that communication, and
it's rough. At the same time, though, because I'm an optimist. By nature, I always try to find the good in a situation. There's a lot of bad in a situation, but the one good is that we've realized, and I think not just us, a lot of people have realized, like, we waste a lot of time,
Yeah.
People just in general just waste so much time. We shouldn't. We take it for granted, It just little things. Like, I'm just thinking, like, Rachel and I, I used to take for granted, like, just being able to go for the pub. Just down to the pub for a drink. And now that I can't do it, I'm like, so many times where I could have just gone, you know what, I'm just going to be sociable, I'm just going to go out, and there's so many times that I've just decided to just sit inside, and I don't know. Yeah, and now I'm stuck inside and can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's taken us. I mean, we released our first album in 2018,
2017.
17.
2018. I thought it was 2017.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it was 2017.
Let me have a look. I'm on Spotify just now.
Yeah, because if it is 2017, we're only just getting around to the second release now. So it hasn't been a lull as such. I think it was 2018 actually.
No, it was 2018. Yeah, so 2 years, but
it was July 2018. So if COVID hadn't happened, we would be releasing our brand new EP right now.
Yeah.
So, but it's taken us. Those songs were written and all ready to go almost a year ago.
Yep.
Because we were trying and testing them during the tour last year, and we could have recorded them in like autumn.
Yeah, we could have recorded it earlier, but
yeah. So
yeah,
what I reckon will happen is because everyone's like, "Oh, we're desperate to do stuff." As soon as lockdown's lifted and we can see people again, we'll probably record it in like 2 days. It's like,
yeah. Never mind, record it in 2 days. We'll probably have like another EP ready to go after that.
Yeah. Everyone's at home writing like crazy, like this.
Yeah, I've written a tune and I've got a bunch of other ideas ready to go. So I've been quite busy in that regard.
So yeah, communication. Everyone's communicating right now, like just because we're all in lockdown. But in future, when we're not in lockdown and people go back to normal and people go back to ignoring each other, communication is key. So I would say the final point of this post-release lull and how to avoid it. Try and learn from your first release. So you've already done this. You kind of know what works and what doesn't. So again, kind of going back to the episode we talked about, the 80-20 principle. Yeah. Do the thing that gets you the best results, and don't do the thing that doesn't yield as many results. So the thing that helped push the last release on more, or got you more followers, or contributed most to the creative process, do that more. So you can try out different approaches as well. So things that you didn't do last time that you could maybe change up, like for example, recording all together in the one room, or recording individually, or writing all together in the one room, arranging together, or maybe someone arranged the whole thing and brought it in and just said, "Hey, this is what I want." Try out different things. Try and keep it interesting. Just mix it up a little bit, because especially if you're stagnant with ideas and you're like, I don't really know, that it's kind of sounding similar to what we did before. It's kind of boring. We want to kind of mix things up a little bit, keep it spicy, keep it interesting. Just try out different approaches. I know we're trying to do stuff like that.
Totally.
We're trying to arrange tunes like differently now.
Yeah, we're trying to put more of an emphasis on like separate, just each person taking full ownership of, just arranging, and then basically doing 90% of the job, and then it gets taken in for that nice little touch up, in the rehearsal space,
Yeah.
So and not to mention style is, I don't know, the new tune that you've heard it anyway. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's not that traddy at all.
Yeah, because I don't like to, some people are like, oh, like this is our genre and we're sticking to it and everything, which is fine. But it's quite nice to have the freedom to just float out of your so-called genre and just
totally.
see what happens. I like that. I quite like
Yeah,
that.
for sure. Just doing stuff. Yeah.
So that's pretty much all I wanted to say on this. It was just something I've noticed over the years. Just like people losing interest after the first release. And if you just be super aware of it, because I've seen it more than once, and it leads to the deaths of so many bands before they've really started. I think maybe there's a kind of thing if you're kind of young and new and into this, and you've never released anything before. There's that thing. Oh, once we release this big album and we go out and gig and everyone's going to see our album launch and everyone's going to buy it and everyone's going to get t-shirts, it's going to be super great and we're going to make it and get signed and dominate the world.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen and then everyone's like, oh, that's it then. Oh, okay. And then they just lose interest. So there could be an element of that as well. So just
totally.
watch out for that.
That was something I thought about, not in that respect, but I was also thinking about things like when you go to school, for example, right? There's always like this build up, and then school holidays, nothing for like a bunch of weeks. And I think that sort of would, I don't think people realize, but it does carry on, so you have this feeling, this automatic thing where I don't know, maybe it's something I just thought about is, so you're working on this project, then you do it, and then your brain just goes, okay, now we need to take a break and not work and then come back. And it's like, no. Like, this is not applicable here at all. You should keep on trucking, like keep on going.
It definitely happened to me in school. After exams, after fifth year, and after fifth year, I did 5 hires, and I worked so hard. And sixth year came, and I was doing more hires. I was supposed to be doing like 3 more hires plus an advanced hire, and I was like, no, I've had enough. Like I maybe did 2 hires and an advanced hire, and baking. I was like, I'm gonna fill the rest of my time with something that I'm gonna enjoy. And then after doing all those heavy, intensive exams and stuff, I didn't want to go to university after that. I was like, I'm done. 5 more years of this? No thanks.
Yeah.
That is a thing. It's kind of when you realize that releasing one album is not going to make you have to keep doing this over and over and over and grinding if you want to get anywhere. I think that realization is a bit much for some people.
Yeah. And then totally. And the lifetime of bands, it just totally depends on. Yeah, it just depends on what happens. Sometimes like bands will go and I'm thinking of famous bands, like they'll make millions, and then some of them break up, like the Beatles, and then some of them just never stop gigging, like Duran Duran, or like who else? The Who. Like 2 members of the Who are dead, and they're still gigging.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, totally. Like,
be like the Who.
Be like the Who. Like,
be like the Who now. Don't be like the Who in the 60s. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Blowing up hotel toilets with cherry bombs.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Driving cars off cliffs. No, don't do that.
Yeah, that was fun at the time. I certainly get the media on you. That's for sure. There is that. Yeah. But
Anyway, I think that pretty much wraps up this little episode. So this, depending on how the audio turns out, we'll see how it goes. We might do this again. We might not.
Yeah.
So, but hey, got to try and do something, right?
For sure.
Cool. So we'll wrap it up here, and we'll get back to it next week, hopefully. with another episode. Not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but
I'll
who knows?
come up with
We'll
something.
see what happens. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. So, and until next week, hope you're all doing well. And again, if you want to leave us a shining review, rating, please feel free. It helps us get the podcast out there more. And if there's any topics or anything you want to, ask us,
DM us,
here, just send us a message if there's anything you want us to cover. We can reply to your emails. You can reach us at www.levelupyourband.com, and we'll take your requests. We don't sing though. Well, maybe you sing. No.
Yeah, I mean, I sing. I don't do it professionally, but it's good enough for backing vocals anyway.
Cool. So we'll see you all next week.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.